Good morning, everyone. My name is Allison Kennedy, and I am going to be leading this webinar this morning on increased productivity with Microsoft 365. I've just posted an announcement in the chat window, so if you can give a thumbs up if you can hear me. There is about a 20 to 60 second delay between when I'm talking and when you actually hear the messages. So keep that in mind as you're typing your questions. Just send questions through as you think of them, because I'll get them about 20 seconds after I've been saying what you have a question about. So don't be afraid to just speak up, interrupt, and put your questions in the chat. I'll try and keep an eye on those and answer those as we go along, and we'll try and pause and give time for questions as well. So I am a Microsoft certified trainer and MVP, and today we are going to be looking at how we can use Microsoft 365 more effectively in order to increase our productivity. So we're going to be looking at quite a few different apps. At a nice high-level overview, I'm going to try and give you some quick wins and some things that you can go away and start implementing today. And so the key areas that we're going to be focusing on are Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Planner. We're going to give a preview of Power Automate and Microsoft Forms. So how we can combine all of these and use them to be more productive. So Microsoft Power Platform is Power Apps, Power BI, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents. And all of these can be accessed through Microsoft Teams or Microsoft 365. So today's webinar is going to be very demo-based. I'm going to be starting in Teams and then working through from there. We're going to be using a bit of Outlook, a bit of To-Do, and a bit of Power Automate. So without further ado, I am going to jump into my Teams training account. So I will bring that up here. So what I've done is I've just created a productivity webinar channel in Teams. This is just a demo team that we create every month to be able to do our training with ACE. So this is just a trial account. There's nothing confidential in here. We can play and explore and see what's possible with Office 365. So today, for demonstration purposes, I'm using Teams within Office 365. You guys have joined this live event using Teams, so that might be kind of tricky for you to follow along and access Teams as well as being joined in the live event. I know from experience that live events are hard to make full screen again after you've gone and done some multitasking in Teams. So if you're wanting to kind of follow along and test what we're doing, you can just open a web browser and you can go to office.com and you can access Teams from the web as well. So you'll see all of your apps on the left-hand side or the app launcher here, and you'll be able to access Teams. And what I am going to do is I'm going to turn off my video so that you can see my screen a little bit bigger, and I'm still here. So just ask questions and put those through if you've got them. All right, so we are starting in Microsoft Teams. And what I am going to do is I am going to start by adding a new channel for the productivity workshop. Okay. And so this is going to be a standard channel that's accessible to everyone in the team. And this is where I'm going to be putting a lot of the apps that we'll be working on today and keeping everything in one spot. Okay. So the first app that I'm going to add for this productivity workshop is something called Planner. So I'm going to just do a quick poll in the chat. So give a thumbs up if you've used Planner before. It just gives me an idea of how much detail I might need to go into on this. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a new plan inside of the team. So I've clicked the plus sign to add a new tab to the team, and you'll see that we've got this option here for tasks by planner and to do. It's in my recent because I've been using it frequently, but it should show up in this top list here for you. If not, you can always search for it in the search bar. If you've used Trello, Planner is very similar to Trello as well. So what it does is it creates a board of tasks, productivity, I can't talk and spell at the same time, plan tasks. And you can create one of these just for yourself to manage your own to-do lists, or you can create this with your team. And this can be a really nice way to manage meeting actions. If you don't have to create formal meeting minutes, but you've got actions that you need to follow up on, you can use Planner as kind of your meeting minutes and meeting actions and meeting deliverables. So in here, I've only got about 4 of you that are currently using Planner, so that's less than 10%. Those of you that are using Planner, if you want to pop something into the Q&A about what you're using it for, and I'll publish that to everyone. So if you've got any feedback or anything to share, so that it's not just my opinion of why Planner is awesome and useful, and I'll just keep giving my spiel in the meantime. Right, so here I've got my productivity plan tasks, and I've created this, but anyone who's part of the productivity webinar team has access to this same plan as well. And so we can create what's called buckets. And buckets is one of the things that I see being misused the most in Planner. And I encourage you, when you're creating your buckets, to think of these more like you would use your folders historically, and to create buckets for things that Planner doesn't already have built into the task. Right? So we might create a bucket for catering. If we're catering the productivity workshop, we might create a bucket for feedback. So after the workshop, we want to collect feedback, and we've got some tasks in there. So I've got to create a feedback form. And so you'll notice that when I create a task in here, Planner gives me the ability to assign this to anyone in the team. I can give it a label, and we've got lots of choices for labels, which is fantastic. If you've been using Planner for a while, there used to be only 5 labels. Now you've got tons and tons of colors to choose from. So I can give this a dark green label, and I can make that more meaningful. So I can say that this is using Microsoft Forms, so I know what system or what technology that is that I need to be logged in to use that. So that's going to help me later to be more productive, so that when I'm sitting in front of my computer, I can filter for things that require the computer. So we could even be more generic with that. So you could just say that that's like a desktop job, and you could have other tasks when you're out client facing, tasks that you've got with the team. Labels are more transient. So I told you the buckets, to think of those like your folders. They're very static. One task gets one bucket. Labels, you can see that we can apply lots of different labels to the same task. And so labels are a little bit more dynamic. They're like those sticky notes that you might put in your notebooks. So this is kind of a way that we can move away from our written sticky notes and notebooks and having things pinned up all over the computer and, oh no, we've got to work from home, or Wellington's just gone into level 2, so maybe you're not in the office today like you were planning on, and where's all of your notes, where's all of your stuff, right? So if it's digital and if it's in Planner, then you can access it wherever you are. So the labels are those sticky notes, and we can make those dynamic. So maybe I need to get feedback from the team on this. So I'm going to give that a label that's going to be something that we're going to discuss in the next team meeting. So that helps. Again, like I said, if you don't have to have formal minutes or but you've just got actions, you can use Planner kind of for managing your meetings. I've just had somebody ask if you can color code in Planner. So what we're looking at here with the labels is Planner color coding. So if I close this task now, you'll see that that task has the color coding for those labels, and I'll be able to filter for those as well. I've had another question: what's the difference between creating a planner via a team and creating one directly in Planner? So we go back to the beginning of how we've created this plan to begin with. I started in the team productivity webinar, and I added this plan to that team as a tab in the channel. Anything that you add to a team is basically just a shortcut to the actual app itself. So if I look at this in Teams, you'll see that it gives me the option to go to the website, and that's going to open up Microsoft Planner. And now I'm looking at that productivity plan tasks, and I can see that that's come from the productivity webinar team, the productivity workshop channel, and it's the productivity plan tasks plan. All right. This plan is the same plan that I had back in Teams. So if I add another task in here for catering, choose cater, and give that a due date, and add that task, I've added that in Planner, but that will show up in Teams as well, right? So they're completely synced. It's pretty much live. If you've got other people that are working on this plan and adding tasks, you'll see those live showing up as well, right? So I have the option from Planner directly to create a new plan, and I can get here. If you go office.com, you can get directly to Planner by choosing Planner from your apps menu. If you don't see Planner here, you'll find it under all apps, and then you can choose Planner, and that'll take you to the Planner hub, right? So from here, I can create a new plan. And the difference between doing it here and doing it in Microsoft Teams is who has access to it and where it's stored. So I have the option when I'm creating it from Planner to add it to an existing Microsoft 365 group. And you'll see a list of all of your teams here. And so I could add it to the, let's see, we've got the productivity webinar team. So I can add that to the productivity webinar team. And I can say that this is the small group activities upgrades. And I'm creating a plan that's a subsection of that productivity webinar team. You'll notice that this one is part of the productivity webinar team, but it doesn't have that reference to a channel where that's been included. Whereas our productivity plan tasks, those are part of the productivity webinar channel, right? So because I've created the small group activities within Planner, it's only sitting in the team. It's not sitting in a specific channel, right? And so if I add a task and I say that we should do small group acting, that's one of my ideas. That is going to be here in my Planner hub, but if I want to get that into Teams, I'm going to need to go and find that plan. And because I created it in the productivity webinar team with the Office 365 group, all of these productivity webinar people have access to it. So at the moment, I'm just a team of 1, but I can add some friends and I can get Mickey Mouse in here. And I could put Donald Duck, and we can have all of these people collaborating in the team, and they'll have access to that small group activities plan as well, but they might not be able to find it, right? So in order to make it easy for them to access and to find that plan, what I can do is add it as a tab. And because the plan has already been created, I'm not going to create a new plan this time. I'm going to use an existing plan from this team. And here you'll see a list of all of the plans that I've got associated with this team or this Office 365 group. So that's me and Mickey and Donald have access to all of these plans. And all I'm doing here is creating a shortcut to this plan. All right. So that's the difference between creating the plan in Planner and creating the plan in Microsoft Teams. If I had created the plan in Planner and not attached it to a Teams group, then I wouldn't be able to add that plan to the Teams channel. Okay. What I do want to show you now is what we're doing here in the Productivity Workshop channel. All of these tabs are visible for everyone that's part of that team, not just me. All right, so by adding that small group activities plan as a tab to this team, I've made that accessible for everyone in the Productivity Workshop. But one trick that I encourage you all to do when you're done today, if you're using Outlook Tasks or if you're using Planner, or if you think you're going to start using either one of those, is in Teams, you can click the 3 dots on the far left-hand side, and you can add apps for yourself to make them easier for you to access via Teams. Everything that you do over here on the left-hand side is personal to you only. You're not doing this for the whole team. So when I add tasks by Planner and to do into here, this is going to pull through all of my tasks from all of my plans. And this makes it really easy for me to see everything that's been assigned to me. So I'm going to pin this. So I just did a right click on that to pin it. And that means that's going to stay there for me. Every time I open Teams, I'll be able to just go to my tasks and say, okay, what have I got to do today? So you'll see the color coding here from those labels. You'll be able to see the source of which plan those tasks came from. So I've got some tasks from Water Safety Day, some tasks from the Productivity Plan. I might have some tasks from the small group activities. If I assign this one to me, then that's going to show up in my list of tasks in here as well. Right? The other thing that we can do is in here, we've got tasks. Okay? So are you using Outlook tasks? Go ahead and give a thumbs up if you're using Outlook tasks. So in here, I can write a task for myself, and I can say that I have to fill in timesheet, submit expense claim. All right, so these are just personal tasks for yourself. What do you have to do for the day? Okay. So these are going to show up in your tasks by planner. These are all the ones that are assigned to you from plans. These are the ones that are assigned to you by yourself from tasks, right? These tasks in here are synced and linked to your Outlook tasks. I am not signed into Outlook desktop app, but I can show you the Outlook web app with this training account. So if I open Outlook, I'm going to be able to go to my tasks in Outlook, and you'll notice that it's got the little tick box. It's called To Do, just like the To Do tasks by planner and To Do. And you'll see that when I create tasks, they show up in here as well, right? So the tasks that are assigned to me, those have come through from Planner, and the tasks that I created for myself are showing up in here. So that's pretty cool, right? Everything's in the same place. If we're accessing it from Outlook on the web, or if we're accessing it from Teams, you can see your Planner tasks, your Outlook tasks. You don't have to be adding another system, right? So you can see how this could be super easy if you're already using Outlook tasks to start doing your meeting actions and meeting minutes directly in Planner, and that enables everybody to just be able to access it from one spot. So hopefully that's a good quick win for you on that. I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions so far. And I've got a question about being able to see the webinar later. Yes, the same link that you use to access the webinar now will let you access the recording. And if you've joined late, you can rewind and you can go back and review. It just means that your questions will be a little bit behind if you've got any questions. To view recording. Also, I believe Tracy will be sending you a follow-up email with the link to the recording so that you've got that handy. Okay. So we've created a plan in Planner. We've talked about tasks and plan and being able to see all of those together. There's lots of things that we can do to get things into tasks or into plan. Okay, one of them in Outlook, if you have an email in Outlook, you can actually just drag your email from emails into your tasks, and that's going to create them directly as a task for you in Outlook, right? So you can do that in Outlook desktop app. But what I want to show you now is if you're collecting information from people, or how do you make it easy to work with your external clients and guests, for example. Okay, so we've got a task over here that says that we need to create a feedback form. So I am going to create a feedback form, and I'm going to do that in the productivity workshop team inside of a channel. So inside this channel, I can add a new tab for Microsoft Forms. Okay. So I'm going to do productivity feedback. And what I'm doing is creating a form that me and Donald and Mickey can all work on together, and we can add questions based on what we want to know from the attendees of the workshop. Okay, so the first question that I'm going to ask is just a simple rating question. I'm just going to say, rate the overall workshop. Okay. Then I'm going to add another question, and I'm going to say, will you use Microsoft 365 differently to increase your productivity? Microsoft has a lot of artificial intelligence built in, so it knows that I'm asking a yes or no question, and it automatically just says, add all of these responses, yes, no, maybe, easy. Okay. I can add another question. I'm going to make this a choice and say, would you like us to contact you for any reason? And I'm going to add yes and no to this one and make it required. And the reason I'm going to make this required is because I'm now going to add another question that says text and say, how can we help? What would like feedback on? I only want to ask them this question if they want to be contacted. And then I also need to know their email, and that's not a choice question. That is a text question. I'm going to let them have a little bit more space for the feedback. That's a long answer. And now on this question here, I'm going to add something called branching. So add branching, and I'm going to say, if yes, they want to be contacted, we're going to go to the next question. If not, that's it, end of form, they're done. I'll go back, and I'm now going to share this with anyone and say, anyone can respond, and then copy the link, and there is the link to that survey. I'll post that in the chat for you, and you can kind of get a preview of what that looks like. All right. Okay, so that's pretty cool, but you're probably not going to be sitting here watching this form, waiting for the responses. We've asked if they want to be contacted, or maybe if they give us a bad rating, we might want to read it and follow up and see why. And so what I want to do is I want to create a new task in Planner every time somebody says, yes, they'd like to be contacted. All right, so now we're going to look at something called Power Automate. So if I go back to my Office 365 app launcher, I'm going to choose Power Automate from the drop down here. And in Power Automate, we've got lots of templates, and I highly recommend that if you've not used Power Automate before, that you check it out and check out the templates. There's a lot you can do without needing to know too much, or without having to work very hard to get things done. So in here, we're using Forms and Planner. So I'm just going to search for Forms, and you'll see one of the top results says create a task in Planner from Microsoft Forms. And it's going to even go one step further and post a message in Teams as well. That sounds like what we're looking for. So I'm going to select that. This is going to connect to Microsoft Forms on my behalf. It's going to connect to Planner on my behalf, and it's going to connect to Teams on my behalf, and I'm going to continue, and it's now going to ask for a little bit of information about what form and what plan and where we want to put that task. So the first thing it's asking for is to pick a form. This is one of the things that I like the least about Forms and Power Automate. If I had created this as a personal form, I'd see it from the drop-down, no problems. Unfortunately, personal forms aren't so great for collaborating and interacting. So we created this as a group form in the Productivity Workshop team. That means I need to open this form in Microsoft Forms, and that's by clicking that open, go to website globe. That opens it in a new tab for me. And in here, you're going to be able to see in this ugly long URL, something that says form ID equals. And I can copy that. And I can go back to my flow and enter the custom value. Right. So like I said, weigh up how many people you need creating the form. If it's just for you, just create a personal form. And the way that you can do that is from forms directly. Just create a new form. And I'm just going to call this my first form. Done. Create. Add a new question. Rating. Rate. Okay. So this form will show up in this drop-down list for me automatically. I don't have to mess around with that ID. Okay. Don't be put off by that. All right, so now we've told it what form we want to connect to. Now we need to tell it where do we want to create the task. I want to create it in the productivity plan tasks. And I want the title of the task to be the email of the person so that I know who I'm contacting. All right, so I'm going to say the task is follow up with a feedback. So when somebody submits a response to the form and says, hey, we want you to contact us, I'm going to create a task in the productivity plan tasks in the feedback channel, and it's going to have their email in the title. Okay. I could select a due date. I could even, if you've got like a time frame that you want to get back to people in, I could get future time. And so I could say that I want to get the time in 7 days from now. And I could set that as my due date for the task. All right. So that's really easy. I didn't have to do any coding to do that. And so I can just say, I've got 7 days to do this task. Planner is fantastic. It sends you notifications and emails and helps keep you on track and make sure that you're actually following up and getting those things done. All right. Once we've created the task, then we can post a message in Teams. And so I can post that in a channel, in the productivity webinar, and we'll post that in the workshop. And my message, I can say, feedback requested from, and I am going to look for the response details and say, this person wanted feedback, and here's their comments. How can we help? What would you like feedback on? That's it. I'm now going to save this and we'll test it. Okay. So I have to test this manually. And what I can do now is go back into my form. You guys are awesome. I've already got one response in here. So I can put some responses in here. Let me preview it. So I can say, this is the workshop. Yes, I'm going to use it. And yes, I'd like to be contacted. Please tell me more on how I can use this. And then I'll just put mail at mail. Submit. So there it is. My response has been submitted. And if we go back to our flow, you can see that my flow has run successfully. and I've gotten an error probably about the time. So I might remove that from there. And since that did not work, it's then terminated the flow. So I'm going to edit that and we'll get rid of that and save and test. And this time I can test with the recently used trigger, right? So you can see the color coding in here makes it really easy to do the troubleshooting, and you can see that that's still got something that it's not happy with. Bad request. So we maybe need to troubleshoot that a little bit further. But that should be creating a task for me in that productivity plan tasks. Let me see. Follow up with responders. Let's put, oh, that's why. I don't know why we had the responder. So this is who it's being assigned to. We can't put anyone in there. So feedback, yeah, that's right. Feedback is the bucket. Follow up with, and we can put their email in there, and then we can put that in there. All right, let's save and test that again. It's taking a little bit longer this time, so it might be working. No, it's still, let's edit and see if it's put somebody in there. Assigned user IDs. Let's try putting me in there. Try it one more time and then we'll move on. Yeah, broken. All right. Unfortunately, you can't see it in action. I'm sure it will be something very simple, so I'll try and get it testing and working again to show you. But that would create a task in Planner and post directly to Microsoft Teams as well. So what I'm going to do, since this one is failing, I'm going to delete that create task step. And we're going to see if we can get the post a message to Teams one to work. So we'll test that. Okay. And that's gone straight to the terminate. We'll delete that. And test it again. Cool. So that's now posted a message in the channel about that response to the form. And so if anybody goes in and submits a response, help, email, that is going to come through to our Teams channel, and you can see that it's bold because we've got a few new messages in there. Right? So please tell me more, help. So if you guys fill in that form in the link, you can put in whatever you want in the email field because it will be public. We'll start seeing those coming through directly into this Teams channel live, which is pretty cool. Any questions? I've got a few questions, so I'm going to jump into there. Yeah, I've got another question about recording. So yes, there will be a recording. How do you view Taskbar and Outlook? Can this sync with other Microsoft products? Yes. And yes. Okay. So one question I had was, how do you see the taskbar in Outlook? So I'm demonstrating Outlook web app, but if you're an Outlook desktop, my task is over here on the left-hand side, but in desktop, your tasks might be down here, and they'll probably look more similar to this. So down in the bottom left there, you'll see icons, or you might even see words. If you don't see tasks, you might have to click the 3 dots, the dot, 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 and that'll take you to your tasks in Outlook. So that's how you can see the taskbar in Outlook. Hopefully that's what you were asking about. If not, go ahead and reply to that question. Let me know if it was something different. Somebody's asking if Glow or Power Automate can sync with other Microsoft products. The example that they've asked about is Azure DevOps. So what I'm going to do here in Power Automate, if we have a look at the connectors section, this is a list of all of the supported connectors that Microsoft Flow integrates with. And this person has asked specifically about Microsoft products, but don't limit yourself to just Microsoft. And this is one of the really cool things about Flow, is you can start using it just for your own personal. If your company is making you use this system and another system, and you've got emails and SharePoint lists and Excel files and things floating around in all sorts of different places, Power Automate is a great way for you to help bring those all into one streamlined place wherever it is that you decide. So if you've got people sending you files in Outlook and Teams and SharePoint, you can create a flow that says, if I get an email, save it into SharePoint. Or I had somebody else say, can you have that be saved into Teams? Absolutely. So you can say, when an email arrives, save that file in Teams, or I'm getting a question now, can you add attachments to the form? You can add attachments to the form. That only works with internal people. So if I'm creating a form, here's my form, right? Because I'm sharing this externally, I don't have the option of a file upload. But if I created a form for internal people only, I could ask them to upload a file to the form, and that's going to save it in the Teams where I created the form automatically. But I could then create a Power Automate to do anything I want with that form as well, or with that file, and have that saved in SharePoint or Teams, or send an email with that attachment. All right. So hopefully that answers your question on that one. So DevOps and all sorts of connectors in here, MailChimp, SQL Server, Asana, right? The list goes on. I'm not going to make you seasick by scrolling through that, but check that out on your own screens, and you can see what all of the connectors are. I'm getting a specific question about saving email attachments directly into Teams. So what I am going to do is look at the templates. And we've got a couple of templates for email attachments to OneDrive. save my email attachments to a SharePoint document library. So this is what we would need to do to get the email attachment to be saved directly to Teams, right? So if I choose this option here, save my email attachments to a SharePoint document library, I'm going to be able to connect to the SharePoint document library that is my Teams. So for those of you who don't know, when you create a team in Microsoft Teams, Microsoft create a SharePoint site collection in the background. And so if we have a look at this team here, this Files tab for this team is actually a SharePoint document library, right? And so when I want to get attachments coming into this area here, I need to create a flow. Where did it go? This one here. So when a new email arrives to my inbox, and I don't need to use the from filter. This is one of the problems with templates. Sometimes they overcomplicate your life a little bit. So this is allowing you to filter for it being from a specific person. We don't need to filter for that. So we're not going to be checking the from email address. So we're just going to go down into this section, and it's going to save each and every single attachment into a SharePoint document library of my choosing, right? And so from here, I can choose any of my SharePoint document libraries. The ones that I have demonstrated today are new. I've just created them, so they're not showing up in this list. Yours have probably been around for a little bit longer, so they will show up in that list. So you'll see that Power BI is this Power BI team here. And the folder path that we want, we need to make sure that we put it into the Teams channel. So to get it into Teams, it will always be in shared documents. And then you'll need to choose the channel that you want it to show up in. So if I choose general, that's going to save those files for me in the general channel under Power BI. Okay. And so I am going to save that site address and folder path on the other side over here. And I might try just deleting this altogether and save. Wonderful. And now we'll test this. And in order to test this, I am going to have to send an email. So we will go to Outlook. And I'm just going to pull it onto this screen for a minute because I need to put an attachment on there. If anybody has any non-confidential attachments that you want to send to this test account, you're welcome to send one. Allison at Ace June 21. Confidential attachments. And I'm going to attach a file. Go. So that is the email. No, it's not really an attachment, it's a link. So we'll see if that works. Yes, send without missing subject. There we go. This one might work better. So that one's coming through as an attachment. And send. Cool. So this one came through with no attachment. This one came through with an attachment. And so those emails are going to be picked up by this Power Automate. And it's going to find all of those attachments and it's going to create that file in SharePoint. So if we come into Teams, I should now see that attachment that I just sent, and there it is, shows up right there. So like I said, if you wanted to test that, you could send an email to that email address that I've posted, and you'll see those attachments coming up here live. I don't have to do anything now, right? So that was real simple. We just used the template as it was, but in our flow, we have the ability to add lots of conditions. So we could have checked to see who it's from. We could check to see if it has certain text in the subject line, who it was sent specifically to, if I was in the CC field, right? Or even at the beginning, choosing which folder, right? So as soon as you drag an email into a folder in your Outlook, then that triggers this flow. And then it saves the attachments, it creates a task for you, it can do all sorts of things without you having to lift a finger, right? So hopefully you've seen how beneficial this Power Automate can be, and hopefully you can set aside a couple of hours to kind of play around with it. You've seen how sometimes you have to do a little bit of troubleshooting with it, so it can be a little bit frustrating, but don't be put off by it, because I guarantee you that it's worth the time to actually implement these processes. Once you've got them set up, you're going to save hours every week, right? And get lots of productivity back from it. Okay. So that are the flows that we've created, the tasks that we've created, and I've still got, so I've answered that one about saving email attachments, the taskbar. I'm going to dismiss that one. Attachments to the form is done. And what other questions have we got? So Chantel has asked if your planner tasks from Teams should show under tasks in Outlook. It depends if you're using Outlook desktop or Outlook web app. So if you're using Outlook desktop, you might not see your planner tasks showing up directly in Outlook. If you're using Outlook web app, you'll see that I've gotten assigned to you, and these are coming directly from my planner tasks. And we've created the feedback form, so I can mark that as complete. And that marks it as complete for me in Outlook. And that's also going to mark it as complete in here in my productivity plan tasks, right? So that's synced and that's directly integrated. If you're in the Outlook desktop app, you might have to add or subscribe to that planner tasks, but you'll definitely see your tasks in here. And so that's why I have gotten into the habit of just using the tasks by Planner and To Do in Microsoft Teams, and all of your tasks are in here. So you can see all of your tasks from Planner, all of your tasks from Outlook, they're all in one place, and you can sort and filter by what you need. All right. Going back to this plan in Planner, we started talking about the labels and the information that Planner already gives you. So one of the reasons, one of the biggest misuses that I see for buckets is people will use like high priority, medium priority, low priority as buckets, but Planner already has that for a task, very important task. So in the task itself, we can assign a priority and we can give it a progress, right? So we don't need to create buckets for that. I can just change the grouping to group by progress. And now I can see, what am I working on? What's completed? What haven't I started? When I start something, I can just drag it into the next thing and drag it into the next one. Right? Very easy to just drag and drop and move these things around. Same thing, I can group by the labels, right? So we've got all of these labels here, and so you can see how those are being grouped, right? And then we could filter by the labels and say, only show me the team meeting and desktop, and only the labels that we're actually looking at. All right. Another thing that's handy if I want to assign tasks to people, so if I've got lots of tasks that are unassigned, I can use the assigned grouping and just drag them, right? So again, imagine that you're in a meeting, use this for your meeting notes and say, we've got this action, who's going to do it? Great, drag and drop. We're following up on our other actions. So I want to see what the progress is on these, and we can just quickly filter. I'm only looking at these tasks. I can clear that filter. Now I'm looking at all tasks. So there's a lot of functionality in here once you dig into it and start actually using it. I've got a question about how can I edit or amend the posted team task. I'm not quite sure what you mean in there, so if you can try rephrasing that one. And somebody asked, how did I add the attachment without showing others? Yes, I've got 3 screens actually, so I'm only sharing one of them with you. So I just dragged that onto the other screen so that you couldn't see what I was doing temporarily, so that I didn't show everything in my desktop, and just showed the one attachment that I chose to share. I'll stick around in case there's any other questions, but that is pretty much all the time we've got for today. So hopefully you've found something new, something to take away from it. Check out Teams, Planner, Microsoft Forms, and Power Automate. See how you can use them all together to increase your productivity. And then if you're wanting to dig a little bit deeper or learn a little bit more, let us know, because we've got some really awesome courses as well on all of those apps. So ace.co.nz, and you can search for our courses. So if we do Power Automate, this course is really fantastic. It kind of ties together all of the things that we've talked about today. So it has you creating a few different flows using Teams, using Microsoft Forms, SharePoint lists, SQL databases, But it's really just about learning the logic of the flow, how to do the troubleshooting that I didn't have time to show you today when you're getting those errors, and just how to make your life easier and more efficient. So if you're wanting a little bit of guidance on flow and you're feeling like flow is something that you're definitely keen to learn, then that might be a good course for you as a next step. So thank you all for your time, and have a lovely rest of your morning and afternoon. If you're still around, the one who's asking about amending tasks, if you make a spelling mistake in a task, you can just open the task and you can change what the task says. You can change anything in the subject or in the notes. You can't change what's in the comments. So the comments are something that it's kind of like an email. Once you hit send, that's been sent, right? So I can say I have updated progress, status, and send. And that's going to send a notification and an email to everyone that's in this list. So if Donald comes in here and adds a comment, I'll get notified because I've commented on this task. So that indicates that I have an interest in it or I'm working on it. And so that makes it easy for Donald and I to collaborate and talk about the task without having to go and send a separate email and attach the task or try and remember what we're talking about. And I just realized that I'm not sharing my screen anymore, but if I do give you that screen share, yeah, I think you can see that now. So these comments cannot be updated, but anything in here can be updated and edited after you've created the task just by clicking back into the task and changing it. There's no tracking, unfortunately, so this is a team plan, right? So I've created this task and assigned it. I can assign that to Donald Duck. Donald Duck has full control. It's all about collaboration. So Donald can come in here and he can change the task and mark it as complete, or say what his progress is, change the spelling, right? So it's a team area, team workshop, so we can collaborate in that space together. And so lots of possibilities in there. I can see I've got some feedback coming through from the productivity workshop, so that's awesome. And if you're talking about editing the messages that are posted in Teams, those cannot be edited. So hopefully that answers your question. I actually might share one more time. Which one do I want? So I've got a question about how many words you can have on a line in a task and how many subtasks you can have. At least I think that's what the question is about. So in the checklist, you can add lots of items in here. Eventually, you reach a limit, right? So you can have 20 items in your checklist, and then that's it. You're done. So I can show this checklist on the card, and I can see what that checklist is, right? But I can only see the first 10, and then I can only have 20 items total. So at the moment, there's no workaround. They might change that. Like I said, we used to only have 5 labels. Now we've got lots of labels. So they might expand the number of tasks and the number of words and such that you can have on a line. But in the meantime, one of the things that you can do is you can promote this to a new task. That's going to remove item, let's do number 9. So that removes item 9 from this checklist. So that gives me the ability to have another item now in the checklist because I'm not up to my number 20. And it puts item 9 as its own task here. And so now I can start adding sub items under item 9. So if you're starting to get a task that has more than 20 sub items, maybe it's likely that you might want to be breaking them into smaller chunks. So that's one thing I would recommend for it. Otherwise, look at integrating with some of the other apps. Do you have that stored somewhere else in another system that you're using for tracking work? Just making sure you're not duplicating things. So hopefully that answers your question on that a little bit. And I'm just going to check if there was anything else. Somebody was asking about syncing with Azure. So DevOps integrates really well with Teams. It's a premium connector for Power Automate, so you'll have to have premium licensing to be able to sync and work with DevOps. But if you've got DevOps, I believe you have that anyway. I'm not a licensing expert, so don't quote me on that, but you can definitely work with DevOps, Planner, Teams, Power Automate, and make them all talk to each other. All right, thank you guys for your time. I think we're down to the last few keen attendees, so sorry for going over, and thank you guys very much. Hope you enjoyed it, and all the best.